economic analysis of public policy is usually a struggle with trade-offs. A policy to increase speed limits, for example, involves, on one hand, the known savings of time, money, and on the other hand, the predictable increase in fatalities. Perhaps the best news from this briefing, as we've already heard some, is that the proposal to increase access to out-of-hospital maternity care by certified professional midwives is not about trade-offs. Home and birth center births are as safe as hospital births, which creates a win-win situation. We can have the safety of hospital births at a fraction of the cost. The relevant discussion then is about whether the size of the win is worthwhile, and I'd like to talk about the potential winnings. There are 4.3 million births in the United States each year. The average cost for uncomplicated home births is about $2,400. The average cost for births in freestanding birth clinics is about $5,300. In hospitals with no C-section, the average cost is about $8,500. And yet, only 1% of births in the United States occur out of the hospital. Setting aside for a moment the issues of C-sections and birth weight, consider the savings that would be achieved if we had more births out of hospital. We'd be optimistic to think that we might have 30% of women deliver in the home as they do now in the Netherlands. But suppose that an additional 5% of deliveries occurred at home rather than in the hospital. The savings from this change would be $1.3 billion annually. If another 5% of deliveries occurred in birth centers rather than in hospitals, the savings would be an additional $675 million annually. Now consider the large and increasing number of C-sections performed in the United States. March of Nimes publishes a new graph, it's from the CDC, that shows the shape of a J. The increase in C-sections is increasing dramatically every year right now. The national average for cesarean delivery is 31.8%. Among low-risk mothers delivering in hospitals, the rate is 19%, compared with 3.7% in home births and 4.4% in birthing center births, respectively. A C-section adds about $5,300 to the cost of the birth. With a reduced likelihood of C-sections among the 5% additional home deliveries and the 5% additional birth center deliveries we discussed, the savings would be an additional $341 million annually. When prenatal care is provided by midwives, the incidence of low birth weight decreases from 2.4% to 1.1%. Low birth weight adds an average of $15,100 to the cost of caring for an infant, with additional health and financial repercussions later in life that I don't include in these estimates. If the percent of out-of-hospital births increased by 10%, 5% in homes and 5% in birth centers, as I discussed, with a reduced likelihood of low birth weight, the additional savings would be another $84 million each year. As an economist, I'm compelled to bring up one more important result of the advancement of out-of-hospital births in the United States, and that's competition. The power of competition as a moderating force for prices and as an incentive for quality care is clear. My own research finds that as you add new retailers to a market, prices come down by about 5% per additional retailer. As we speak, automakers are removing dealers. They're reducing the number of dealers in each town because they've figured out that with more providers, there are lower costs. And to fly nonstop from Lexington, Kentucky to Washington, D.C., as I did yesterday, costs $431, while the slightly longer trip from Louisville, Kentucky to Washington, D.C. costs $204, less than half as much. Why? Because the low-cost, service-oriented airline Southwest serves Louisville, but not Lexington. When certified professional midwives serve the 50 states, they will be that low-cost, service-oriented competitor for hospitals. If, with competition, the average cost of hospital births comes down by 10%. That will mean savings for the 3.8 million women who would still deliver in the hospital under our scenario. The additional savings would be $3.2 billion each year. The World Health Organization recommends cesarean birth rates in the range of 10 to 15%. If competition from home births and their 3% cesarean rate motivated hospitals to decrease their rate to 15%, the high end of the World Health Organization recommendation, the savings each year would be another $3.5 billion. The total savings I've described amount to $9.1 billion each year. This proposal represents a win for many constituents. Constituents who want childbirth to be safe and natural, constituents who favor freedom of choice, constituents who want to reduce the cost of health care, and constituents who favor a free market solution. I hope you will embrace this winning approach to lowering health care costs. Thank you kindly for your time.